are the ponderosa pines that are the problem. These are not the big, strong, healthy, yellow-bellied sapsuckers. These are the little things that are really eroding away our land. So, yeah, these are your antagonists. So I want you to kind of go and get away from each other and be quiet and start to just like brainstorm ideas that you have about characters, about plot, about just what you see in this play. I had another meeting this morning. That's all you do when you have these things is you meet. And we're now up to 14 performances over the course of 3 weeks. So we thought we were going to compress it into a week, but it's 3 weeks. We're doing 3 just at Center for the Arts. We've got to do a performance for the people that gave us the grant. We're doing a charter school performance that all the charter schools are invited to, and then we're doing an evening performance for community and parents. So it just kind of grows and grows and grows.
I would run away and get in the house and jump. Yeah.
I know, Corey, you've been having some struggles. Do you want to talk about it?
Still going with the Joaquin Phoenix.
Thinking about character, because that's what I thought a lot about.
Me too.
We wanted fire as a character, but we also didn't want to tell young children to go out and set fires. So what if we had fire as the protagonist and the antagonist? Like the prescribed burdens would be the protagonist, and like the Schultz fire would be the antagonist.
I was thinking
So
the fire.
like crown fire and surface fire?
Yeah.
As like,
I was thinking the fire kind of like as like a more of like a one character, like the
split personality.
yeah, well not split personality, but like an unreliable character, you know, like like he could just like turn on you at any time or.
I had another idea that we could maybe like start with fire. Maybe we could start with some really bad crown fire and be like, this is bad because somebody set it up. Like I almost want to get that out of the way before
It could
we
be like a detective sort of thing, like, why was this fire so bad?
Yeah.
Well, I'm seeing something, and this could be usually could be translated from Arabic. So the play I wrote last summer, it kind of goes from the mythological into the real, into reality as we live it today. And my favorite moments are those archetypal, mythological tales that are told, and they're acted out and told. You know, and I kind of saw the merging of the imaginary and the real in this show, because the kids love the imaginary. And then the other thing I see is, okay, so you got this grand screen, right? And I really feel, and I don't know if this is tooting my own horn, but I really feel like I had merged in The End of the River, the musical review last year we did, the video and what was happening on stage, so they were working symbiotically. In an avant-garde style, which you wouldn't want to go with kids.
No
eye licking.
But it adds an element of poetry to what's happening on stage, so it complements. You're not necessarily focused on it, it's complementing what's happening on stage. So this is what I saw in the woods. Well, first of all, I saw, right, the woods in Shakespeare are what? Transformation. You go into the woods to become something new, and then you leave the woods having been transformed. Right? And that's how it happens in fairy tales. Little Red Riding Hood prances into the woods and she meets the big bad wolf, right? And then, just a second, maybe I'll get to you. But I saw this kid coming out, I don't know if it's a boy or girl, and the play begins just with this visual, and he's standing in front of this wall-sized screen, and he says, "There's a story my grandfather told me." BAM! And then you go into it. You know? And then BAM!
Exactly like that.
Yes. And we're just like all over the screen. And the kid's telling the story that his grandfather told. And then they go into the journey.
The Princess Diaries.
That was like the last reference I expected.
Yeah, David.
I just want to throw this out there. What if, because
we could get 5 characters. What if it was the character of the old trees, the character of the young trees, the character of fire, the character of man, and possibly the character of time?
Well, in terms of main characters, out in the woods, I was seeing a boy and a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Make it
So
accessible
the
to
boys
them.
could relate to the boys, and the girls could relate to the girl.
Right.
Or vice
girls.
versa.
Exchanging.
Yeah.
So, what I kind of thought would be interesting is like, so what if we have a character, like 2 characters, a boy and a girl, and they end up going like, so they'll learn about the forest in reality, but we also have part of the play take place in their dreams, so then they can learn from their experiences in their dreams. They could be like, well, the forest would be healthier if we lit it on fire, so they light it on fire, and then in their dream world everything burns up and it's bad. But then in reality they realize that that's bad. So we could go back and forth, and then there would be that element of the imaginary as well as.
Or they could be like daydreaming like in a class, and that forest hell.
Because I like the idea of using the imaginary. I don't want to go too far into using the imaginary because, you know, this is like a real topic. We are talking about real forests here. You don't want to like put a unicorn in the forest and be like, look at this unicorn. I don't know.
Yeah, legitimately.
I like the dream idea. That's awesome. I think we should keep that.
Well,
How's
one
it? Sorry.
thing, like just to appeal to children and keep with imagination and something that they're really interested in is like something kind of Alice in Wonderland-esque. Or just like a visitor in some place where they've never been before, whether it's like an alien
Like the Wizard
checking
of
out a
Oz.
forest or what?
The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
All those
Like-
fun fairies.
where a
Reality
child
is-
is thrown into a world that they don't know, or a world is thrown at a child that the world doesn't know. Like,
Yeah.
So, what if you had the boy and the girl, and they had their real world and their imaginary world, and in the real world, the trees and the fire, they're not characters, they're there, but they're not sentient and living. And in their dream world, the young trees and the old trees will speak to them, and they have the fire as a character with the 2 sides. And like, I'm thinking time could sort of represent like the healing of what could, and then what could happen if, I guess, man plays the cards right.
That's fine, but I was really seeing those other 3 actors, and potentially if we need 4, we could use 4 as being all the other roles. So not sticking to
Yeah.
one role.
Yeah, I almost, for the trees especially, I want to have, and this may just be me, I don't know, but I want to have like one big old healthy tree, but then, you know, there's so many young trees, I almost want to have like 2 actors, just like young children kind of portraying this young child tree character, and 2 of them,
Puppets.
you know, or puppets, that could work.
I also thought
tons of finger puppets
Tons of
all over everybody's fingers.
I don't think they should be finger puppets because if we're having a whole school, either marionettes or like full-on arm puppets. So you're like,
We could
Yeah.
just have trees on stage, one large one and the smaller ones, and the people who are playing the trees, they don't need to be dressed as trees, they're next to the trees perhaps, and they're like the spirits of the
Yeah,
trees.
because second graders are not gonna understand that, or like the character of fire.
The character of time, you're not,
Time is just
they're totally
fire,
not going to
fire,
understand
fire.
that.
It's not gonna understand fires, like.
Well, children like personify everything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Every show that you like, every show targeted for small children.
Yeah, like
Has-
talking animals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
talking
so
animals.
we're coming out of
Talking
Orange Fest too,
schools.
where we're like where we were brainstorming ideas that would appeal to parents that go to, that have children that go to folly. Now we're trying to appeal to 7-year-olds, and 7-year-olds won't understand like the
This
character
character is
representing time.
Well, I disagree. If you say like, if you come right out and say, "I'm time,"
Like,
the child will say, "Oh, it's time."
if you
Well,
dress
that's
them up
the-
like
the
father
reason time is
mother,
that-
mother,
yeah.
Simply because, the reason I thought we should put time was simply because they wanted us to sort of put in there, what can you do to help? And time would be the, what can you do to help the forests? What can you do? Because they're.
Well, and that's a valid point that you raise, and that's what I was thinking too out here, and I have to think about the last few days. What is the question that we're asking with this play? What's the primary question that's being asked in this play?
I guess for children at that age, I guess the question would be, are you aware of what you're doing? Are you aware that this is happening? I guess that would be the question.
Like, do you know
You
what-
can't really,
How well do
you can't really give them a question sophisticated enough to where they wouldn't understand it. So.
No, I guess I'm asking in terms of the writing. What is the question that we're asking in the writing of this show?
So I guess it would just be, are you aware of what you're possibly doing, or are you aware of what's happening?
Are we going for an are you aware, or are we going for a what can we do to help?
I think both.
Is this just completely informational, or are we just trying to supply them with all this information? Because it doesn't really seem like they're trying to say that this is good or bad, or it's just there.
You know, God, with any kid, the question is, how can you give them information without them realizing they're getting the information?
The problem
Because as soon as you start teaching to them, shut down.
Yeah.
The
Shut
problem
down.
is, if like we were saying this is good for our forest, then it would be easier, or this is bad for our forest, that would be easier. But they want us to go in several different directions at once, and it's harder to merge all those topics into like a humorous piece that they can take.
Or like, how do we say that crown fires are bad and surface fires are good without
Yeah.
teaching, without going up and being like, well, crown fires are bad because of this, children.
I still think, without getting avant-garde, with still having a plot, I still think we can do that expressively. I think we can do that through sheer poetry.
Yeah, I feel like if we keep this dream idea where this boy and this girl have these dreams, you know, that almost makes it easier in the sense like they go to sleep one night, they have this dream, and then they go to sleep another night, and they have a different
They
dream
could have
about-
contrasting dreams.
They could have
too.
contrasting
Like,
dreams.
Yeah, and then they
would
like
make
one
the
dreams
dreams
about
happen?
the crown.
Like, why are they having dreams about fire? Like, what makes these two kids special and these dreams special?
Well, they don't always have to be about fire.
Or
I
just
mean,
like about the forests.
Maybe
Like, why?
something in school.
I think Winston, do you have something? No?
I think that before anything plot-wise happens, we have to like communicate why they even care about the fire.
Yeah,
And about the forest, like, before we start giving them information about the forest and what they should do to help it, we should tell them why they care about the forest.
are they like?
Well, that's why I wanted to go back to Shakespeare's. I forgot what we're really doing here. You know? And it's like, my friends and I used to go into the woods and play cowboys and Indians, right?
Do kids still do that?
Always come, right? You know, and I think the woods represent that imaginative sense of play to a kid. And I was asking myself as we were out here, what can I do? That forest right there is overpopulated. What can I do? There's nothing I can do. But the overriding question I think that's being asked is how can humans and nature interact in a healthy manner, symbiotically? And right now, it's totally unhealthy.
Are we gonna have a character for the nature, like Ponderosa? Wait, Ponderosa Peak, was that his name?
Okay,
I
okay.
just never bring up
What-
his name.
Okay, what if your two kids weren't just kids? What if they actually represented like young trees or something? Like we are the forest, but we just figured out that we're the forest. So, oh my gosh, things are going wrong in the forest. What can we do to help? I don't know.
That might be
I think that gets a little fussy.
Yeah.
What?
What if, okay, so two kids in the forest, they're like climbing over rocks, they're playing, and they come across like a bird tree, like a crown fire tree, and it's just bird tree crisp, and it's clearly dead. And they're like, what's wrong with this one? And then they go home and they're like, oh, and they get into that.
You know, I always go back to the Lorax of this boy walking in the forest and coming upon these creatures telling about this land before it was destroyed. And I think we're getting confused, we're getting complicated plots confused with magic and humor.
Yeah, and I think if we are going to follow the hero's journey, we need the teacher archetype, so that would obviously be our most useful asset for providing information, I think.
Yeah, and unless we're going to go with the dream world, then the boy and the girl would almost have to be some sort of an animal or different type. Because any mom wouldn't say, like Crone Weasel, mom wouldn't say, okay, go on your journey
Yeah.
to a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
But a 6-year-old squirrel or deer